Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Code Man Movies. As you can probably hear, I'm feeling better finally. I was sicker than a dog last week, as I talked about in my last episode. If you even watched that, not very many people that did. But anyways, I was sick as a dog last week, and was still coughing up until like Tuesday or Wednesday. It was like a week-long battle with this stupid cold that I had, and it was awful. So welcome back to another episode of Cold Man Movies. I'm drinking alcohol this time. Last time I did not have alcohol. I don't even remember what I had. I think I had like apple cider or something stupid like that. But this is sort of similar, actually. It's a caramel apple hard cider. It's delicious. So yeah, guys, without further ado, grab yourself a drink. Let's talk about some movies. Also some TV shows. I watched some short series this week, so... I watched 1, 2. Anyways, we'll just get talking about that. We'll also talk about Chicago this week, because I went to Chicago this weekend and I had a flippin' blast. So, we'll talk about that a little later. But, let's move on to our first thing. Our first thing this week is The Patient. This was a short series, 10 episodes, starring Steve Carell and Domhnall Gleeson. One of the podcasts I listened to, The Big Thing, they were talking about this show and how I needed to watch, how everyone should be watching it. Short series. By the way, I'm wearing a bathrobe today because it's my day off and I don't want to put on real clothes. It's snowing outside. I hate snow. So that's why I look like a flippin' slob. But yeah. Anyways, continue on with The Patient, guys. Heard about a show on the podcast. Thought I would check it out. This show is very interesting. And ever since September, I have been just watching nothing but true crime kind of stuff. And this show kind of falls in line with that, even though it is not actually a true crime. But it could be, I guess. This is a story about Domhnall Gleeson's character is a serial killer. And he wants to stop killing people. He wants to do better for his mother, who he lives with. And he wants to do better. He wants therapy. He wants to get better. He wants to stop killing people. And the way he feels he needs to do this is by kidnapping his therapist, played by Steve Carell, and putting him in his basement. So Steve Carell is literally handcuffed to the floor, like chained to the floor, and can literally go to his bed, and that's about it. He's got a bed and a chair where he can sit in to do therapy sessions with Domhnall Gleeson's character, and things go from there. This is a show where it has such an interesting premise, and it's a show that I don't want to talk too much about what goes on in it, because I don't want to spoil it. It's a show you should just see, because it's very interesting. I love that most of this takes place in the basement. There are flashbacks and things that we see inside people's brains, I guess you could say, and that's about it. But other than that, this takes place pretty much primarily in the basement of this serial killer's house. Very interesting. You find that there's some backstory to the killer that doesn't make you necessarily feel for him, but you find backstory to the killer, you find backstory to the therapist, and you find out things aren't as they seem, things aren't exactly as what they are portraying to be, and that's very interesting. Again, this is one of those things that I just don't want to spoil too much about it, because there's so much in there, and there's so much stuff you don't want to know about before going in. But it is such a fascinating, such an interesting show. Very intense. Quite a few scenes that you're holding your breath kind of situation. If you don't like intense kind of things, this probably won't be your kind of thing. But I found it so intense and insane, and such an interesting psychological kind of film. Thriller, psychological thriller, really. It's not a film, it's a show. Limited series. There's lots of twists and turns. Constantly guessing what's going to happen, and you're kind of wrong. And it's just so interesting. Such an interesting show. Definitely check this out. Again, just the entire time, you don't know whether this person's lying, this person's telling the truth. You don't know what's going on. And I absolutely love that about the show. Really good 10-episode show. I think it could have been a little bit shorter, actually. There's a couple episodes that kind of just go on, and not much happens in it. So other than that, and the fact that it could have been a bit shorter, this is a really good show, and I highly recommend it. I'm going to give it like a solid, oh, what am I going to give this one? I'll probably give this one like a 9 out of 10. This was a really good 10-episode series. I watched it pretty quick. I watched it within 2 days. I was really enjoying this show, and I highly recommend it if, this is your cup of tea. If you are one of those people that have been watching Dahmer and that kind of stuff, this is a good show to check out. So that is The Patient, guys. Touristas, I believe that's how you say it. I honestly don't know how you say this. This is a movie we watched for Film Club. The category of the week was vacations that you didn't want to go on or something like that. And this is a movie I'd never heard of. I knew nothing about it. And so I watched it. This is a 2000s horror movie, and 2000s horror movies weren't always the greatest. This is kind of one of those movies. For the first hour, this is just pretty people going to the beach and having fun. And then from there, there's other things that happen. They get lost. They do a bunch of stupid stuff in the woods and such like that. And the last half hour, 45 minutes really picks up and goes flipping baloney crazy. It goes, this movie's insane by the end. Again, it's one of those 2000s horror movies. If you like the 2000s horror movies, you might like this one. Personally, I found it to be fine. Nothing I will ever revisit. There's some really interesting stuff in here. It definitely goes crazy. All the characters are kind of stupid and non-memorable and just buttheads. So I felt nothing for the characters. And I was kind of they were kind of there just to die. And, it was just kind of nothing to me, I guess you could say. Acting is technically, it's fine. Is there some good cinematography? I mean, it's fine. Sound editing is fine. Sound mixing, all that stuff, it's fine. Again, it's just a 2000s horror movie. Basically, people wanted to go on vacation and film a movie, and that's what they did. That's kind of what I got out of it. The editing is also kind of choppy in this at times, and I found it annoying, particularly towards the end. There's these scenes in these underwater caves, and I had no clue necessarily what was going on sometimes. It was kind of just all over the place, and it's just trying to be exciting and shocking. There's a really interesting scene involving a real-life surgeon. I won't say any more than that, but if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. That was really interesting. There is some moments of tension, and yeah, there's some scares and some gory, over-the-top 2000s horror moments. That's about it. Guys, I'm just not going to remember this one. I barely remember it, having watched it a week ago. Honest to God, I don't know what else to say about this one. If you like these kind of 2000 horror movies, you might like this one. For me, I was kind of just, It's not terrible. It's not great. It's a 4 out of 10. It's there. 4 out of 10 for, I can't even say it, Touristas. Just a weird 2000s horror movie, my opinion. What happened to Brittany Murphy? Another guess you could say short documentary series I watched. This is 2 episodes, 2-part documentary on HBO Max. And I don't really know why I chose to watch this. We did watch Just Married in a film group not too long ago that stars Brittany Murphy. I guess maybe that's why I chose to watch this. I really knew nothing about Brittany Murphy's death. I knew she died young. I know there was some controversy. That's about all I knew. I really knew very little about her. I knew she was in 8 Mile. That's about it. I think that was the only movie I really had ever seen of hers. So I knew really nothing about this. She's in Clueless, too. Is it Clueless? I think it's Clueless. Anyways, knew very little about her, except she was an actress. And I think why I put this on is I was doing some other stuff, and I needed something to watch kind of in the background and not have to fully pay attention to it, but enough that I could still get what's going on. And this is one of those things. Brittany Murphy lived a very interesting life. I don't know how I want to say what I want to say here. From a very young age, she seemed just very driven and very much like if she wanted something, she fought for it, got it kind of thing. And I just had no clue about all these theories with her husband, and I didn't know the weird things that happened kind of with her husband. Uh, you know, Brittany Murphy was a very beautiful looking woman. Her husband, not so much. He's an older kind of man, which there's nothing wrong with that. If she did fall in love with this man, that's awesome. That's great. Love is a good thing. But the documentary and some theories kind of talk about the fact how maybe he forced her kind of thing, which is, it's just interesting, these theories and such like that. And I don't even know what to think of it. The man is very weird. They show videos of him like after her death, like showing off their house, and it is very weird. He definitely had some interesting secrets. Like he had a kid that Brittany Murphy probably didn't know about from the sounds of it. The thing with Brittany Murphy's mom and him, like sleeping in the same bed and stuff, is a little different. And as far as how they both died, I don't know. I'm not a smart person. My IQ is not that high. In my book, if the autopsy, I don't know what you call them, but the person who did the autopsy said that it was some kind of mold or something, I kind of feel like that's what happened, but I don't know. And again, and the fact that her husband died not too long after, I don't know. But it is interesting that like their trainer, I think, was like a yoga trainer or something like that. He was talking about how she seemed almost like drugged or very drunk or something when she came. There's just some very interesting stuff, and it's again, I'm not smart enough to solve mysteries like this and kind of stuff. I'll leave that to professionals. So from what I got from this documentary is just thoughts. I don't know. It's very interesting. There are some suspicious things going on there. At the end of the day, they're both dead, so nothing can really be done about this. It is just interesting what was going on in her personal life and this weird relationship with her husband. At the end of the day, guys, this is a very short documentary. I feel like it was very one-sided at times. I didn't get a whole lot out of it. I learned basically how she died and some weird things that were happening in her life towards the time that she died. And that's really about it. This was nothing that spectacular to me. But it is an interesting kind of thing to watch. And it's 2 hours long. It's nothing terribly long. It's just this 2-part documentary. If this is something that does interest you, it might be something that I did. I put it right in the background, and it was perfect. I'll give this let's give it a 7 out of 10. Again, nothing spectacular, but it was something to watch while doing other stuff, and interesting enough. And at the end of the day, what really matters is, rest in peace to Brittany Murphy. If her husband was a piece of crap, not necessarily rest in peace to him, but if he wasn't, and all of this is just people's insane theories, then rest in peace to him as well. Because if they really did just die because of mold in their house, that's awful. That's terrible that's the way you go out. And especially at the young age that she was, that's absolutely terrible. So that's all I'm really going to say about that one. It's a solid 7 out of 10. It was fine. Nothing spectacular. Lady Bird is the next movie in my list. This was another movie we watched for Film Group. Movie I have seen before, I own. I absolutely love Lady Bird. I'm just going to say that up front. This is such a fantastic movie. The category of the week was favorite characters. And Lady Bird is definitely just a favorite character that I can think of. She's such a spunky, fun, awesome teenager. What I love about this movie, it is a coming-of-age movie, but it deals with everything that could possibly happen in a coming-of-age movie. And it does it in 90 minutes. It's a short movie. It's really not super long. It deals with things like friendship, with high school, wanting more for yourself, the relationship between parents and children, family, finding yourself, dating, just everything under the sun this movie kind of deals with. And at the center of it all really is the relationship between Lady Bird and her mom. A relationship that is complicated. They're constantly bickering and fighting and yelling. And in the next second, they're best friends and they're talking like they absolutely love each other, which at the end of the day, you realize throughout the movie, they do absolutely love each other. They're very different people and they see the world differently. And yeah, I absolutely love this movie. I love it. I just love the meanings of being your true self and finding yourself, and again, that relationship of parent and child. Even though similar to me in a sense, my relationship with my parents is not great, but I even feel like they're closer than I am with my parents. So, anyways, we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about this movie because this movie is so good, guys. The acting is so top-notch. It feels so real. The soundtrack and the score are really great, but they're not, like, obnoxious. You hear a song in the background, and you just realize how good of a soundtrack it is, how good the score is. The direction is absolutely phenomenal. Greta Gerwig did such a phenomenal job with this. You could tell she cared. And you could tell a part of her is definitely Lady Bird in a sense. I absolutely love that. You know, like I said, Lady Bird is such a great character and definitely worthy of a favorite character category award, I guess you could say. And I just love that central relationship between the daughter and mom. Such a powerful relationship and makes such a powerful movie. Yeah, it really is such a phenomenal movie. I'm trying to think of a negative with this movie. Honestly, it feels like more things maybe could be punched out. And even like the ending when she goes off to college a little bit, it kind of just feels thrown in at the end, tacked in at the end. If you were going to have that college, maybe have a little bit more to it or something like that. It just feels like there's a couple things maybe missing from the movie. Not quite perfect, but very close. I'll give it a 9 out of 10. It is such a phenomenal movie, guys. I absolutely enjoyed watching this movie. Again, for like, I don't know, the 10th, 20th time. I've watched this movie quite a few times. It's such a good movie, guys. If you have not watched Lady Bird from 2017, you should absolutely watch it. I believe it got nominated for Best Picture that year. It was such a good movie. Sometimes you just need a drink. Next up, guys, we have The Others, Nicole Kidman horror movie. And I've watched this movie once before, and I believe it was during COVID, during the lockdown. And another film from our film group, the movie category was Ghost Movie, which if you've seen the movie, you understand why it's a ghost movie. If you haven't, I don't want to say anything. I don't want to say anything else. This is a movie that, again, you don't want to talk too much about it. There are twists and turns in this movie, things that I was not expecting at all. Ooh, excuse me. And it is a really good horror movie, guys. It's not gory. It's not overly scary. It's just a tension-filled, slow burn kind of a movie that does such a great job with tension. And Nicole Kidman is acting her butt off. She is so great in this movie. There are child actors in this movie. They're doing such a phenomenal job in this movie. Nicole Kidman does such a good job of just playing anxious and making us, the viewers, feel anxious with her. And it's just so fantastic. And the reasons why she's anxious, you understand it for what's going on. I'm not even going to say why she's anxious a lot of the movie. It has something to do with her kids. But I'm not even going to say that. It's such a great movie that makes you feel anxious and you feel the tension the entire time as well. Just such an interesting and eerie movie. This movie doesn't have over-the-top jump scares necessarily. The score is very eerie. The editing is very eerie. Just everything about this movie is very eerie. It's beautifully directed, beautifully shot, and you just feel the eeriness. And this is one of those movies that once you learn the twist and stuff, you go back and you start looking for clues because they're in there. And they're right there in front of you, and you don't realize it the first time you watch it because you're just watching it. and boy, is it so. This is such a good movie. Uh, like I said, it's a little bit of a slow burn. It feels maybe like 2 hours instead of the hour 45 minutes that it is. So it is a little bit of a slow burn, and I would say it goes on a little bit towards the end. Once the twist is kind of revealed, it keeps going with some other things that I don't think needed to be in there. But other than that, this is a really good horror movie. This is one I'll probably revisit again. Maybe not every year, but every couple years I'll be watching this one. It is really a fantastic little horror movie. Absolutely loved it. I'm going to give it like an 8 out of 10. It is so good, so eerie, and it's a PG-13 horror movie. It's not what you would usually expect, but it is really good, guys. If you have not checked out the others, good horror movie to check out. Next up, guys, we have Kill Bill Volume 1. Wow. Okay. Kill Bill Volume 1, guys. This was another movie in Film Club. Before I was actually in Film Club, they have a list of past movies they've done. I've kind of just wanted to watch some of the other ones they've watched. One of them was Kill Bill Volume 1, and I think the category that week was movies that haven't been watched that should have been watched. So someone in our group had not watched Kill Bill Volume 1 yet. And what a good pick, because I have seen this movie before. I think I saw this movie for the first time, I don't know, back in 2012, something like maybe 10 years ago. And I remember growing up, we would get the Sunday paper that had the flyers, the ads for stores and such like that. And I remember seeing this poster a lot in like the Best Buy and Target and such like that in the movie section. And it would show this cover and I went, that looks like an interesting movie. It also has a hot girl on it. Uma Thurman looks hot as hell in that poster. So that was probably also part of it too. But it was such an interesting poster. It's so simple. The yellow, the black, and she's got a freaking samurai sword. Like, that's pretty freaking awesome. So I just remember seeing this poster and always wanting to see this movie. When I finally did, boy, did I enjoy this movie. This is such a beautifully shot film, such a beautifully taken care of film, such a beautifully cared for film. Just everything about it is absolutely beautiful. Such a wonderful movie. It feels like so much love and care was just put into this behind the scenes. Quentin Tarantino, I feel like, really took his time in writing this and developing the characters. And it's just such an interesting movie. It's also a great love letter to like kung fu and anime and spaghetti westerns almost in a sense, and just action movies in general, and just movies, period, in general. And I love that we get these, throughout the movie, you get different sections of movies, essentially. There is a little bit of kung fu kind of stuff in here. There is some anime sequence. There is black and white fights that are so beautifully done. Just such a wonderful movie. And Uma Thurman's character, the bride, I forget what her actual name is. I always just have referred to her as the bride. She's such a strong character. She's out for vengeance, and you very early realize, I would be out for vengeance on that too. Like, what she goes through in this movie is insane. And you immediately just root for her because of what she's been through. I just absolutely love it. Irma does such a good job as this character as well, just giving it her all, and I love every second that she's on screen. The fight scenes are so well done in this movie. The choreography and the stunt work and just everything. The planning that had to have gone into this movie just had to have been insane. And just job well done. It was so worth it because what you see on screen is just incredible. Absolutely love it. The direction is absolutely fantastic from Quentin Tarantino in this movie. I believe it was this one or the second one that Uma Thurman kind of talked about recently, how Quentin made her drive a car faster than she was comfortable with, and how Quentin was maybe being a bit of a butthead. I hope that it seems like they have resolved that. I never like that idea that anyone is being pressured to do anything they don't feel comfortable with. So I hope that that stuff is forgiven and such like that. And I hope Quentin Tarantino's not being a dick behind the scenes, because he is a great filmmaker. And I don't want him to be, you know, Me Too'd or anything like that. And because he does amazing work. He's a great writer. He is a great director. He puts so much care into his work. I just don't want to see anything like that happen. But this really is such a strong movie. Negatives for this movie, there is just some, again, going back to what I was just talking about, there's a character in this movie that rapes women in comas, and he has other men come in and pay him to let him do that. Like, it's weird and unneeded and creepy. Just some other kind of weird things like that. Like, you have such a strong female character, and then you have these male characters that are just disgusting and gross and don't need to be in the movie. There's kind of a purpose for that character. She takes this truck, but it could have been done in way better of a way. It was icky. There's moments that are just icky in this movie, and I don't love them. They're moments I want to just fast forward through when I'm watching this movie, because they're just a little too gross. And yeah, honestly, there's a little bit of fluff in this movie. We'll kind of talk about that more in the second one here, but I'm going to give this a solid 8 out of 10. It is such a good movie. If you've not seen Kill Bill Volume 1, check it out. And next up, guys, Kill Bill Volume 2. And everything I just said about the first one, bring it on over to the second one. Such beautifully directed scenes, acted. Again, the love letter to Kung Fu and Westerns and all that kind of stuff is so absolutely great. Uma Thurman, again, just spectacular in this movie. And it's such a good movie, guys. Both these movies are so good. Again, like the last one, there are moments that are just kind of icky. Moments that are a little fluffy. I think Quentin Tarantino has said that he considers this to be one movie. I think he has even edited a cut of this movie that's like 3.5 hours. So he's taken out some of the fluff and just made it a 3.5 hour long movie. I'm interested in seeing that movie. I think this would be like a 9 or a 10 for me even. Just, I love these movies so much. They are so much fun, and you feel for the bride, and they're brilliant. They really are. Absolutely love these movies. The final confrontation with Bill, because the entire movie is about her wanting to go kill Bill for something he did to her. It feels a bit rushed, but at the same time it's earned, and you understand why things take place and why the bride does what she does, and it does feel earned. And it's such a phenomenal movie. Again, this one's probably gonna be an 8 out of 10 for me too. I think if I were to see this 3.5 hour cut, 3 hour cut that Quentin Tarantino has put together, I think I would like these movies even more, like a 9 out of 10. They are such phenomenal movies, and if you have not seen Kill Bill Volume 1 or 2, I feel like they're underrated Quentin Tarantino movies. Not that many people talk about them, I don't think, and we should, because they are so flippin' good, guys. So check out Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2 if you have not, and if you have, well, check them out again, guys. They're such good movies. Just wonderful. So much fun. Uh-oh, I missed one. Oh, there's a poster missing, guys. Well, we're going to put it on this. But the next movie I watched, guys, was Black Panther. Black Panther that came out in 2017. And I remember seeing this. I saw this 3 days after my dog died. So I was not in the best place that week. But I did see it 3 days after my dog died. And I remember coming out thinking that it was a really good MCU movie. And then during the Oscars, it got nominated for Best Picture and all that. And by then I felt it was a little bit overrated. I understand people wanting to see people of their color becoming superheroes. I understand how that's a huge deal and how important that is and how that would be instrumental in you enjoying a movie. But I felt it was overshadowing the movie just a teeny tiny bit. It is a really good MCU movie, guys. I really do love the story. I love that this movie has so much culture. The different tribes of Wakanda are absolutely fantastic. But I just feel it's slightly overrated. Should it have been nominated for Best Picture? God, no. I think if any Marvel movie was going to be nominated that year, it was going to be Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse or even Avengers Infinity War. I felt Avengers Infinity War did a much better job as a movie. And even more, Spider-Man and Spider-Verse. Spider-Man and Spider-Verse was my favorite movie that year. Such a phenomenal movie. And I really felt that should have been the one to get nominated, not Black Panther. But that I'm just putting that out there just so you understand. I'm not negative about this movie. It's just I feel it was a little overhyped. Like I said, I love all the cultures. I think Killmonger is such a great villain. You understand why he's doing what he's doing, why he understands. Still coughing a little bit, guys. You understand why he's doing what he's doing and why he thinks he's right, and you feel for him. What I don't think is so great about this movie, guys, is the CGI. This is a Marvel movie, a big budgeted Marvel movie. This same year, we got Thanos, who looks so flippin' real. We got Thanos in the next movie that came out, and he looks so real. And in this movie, there are some terrible, terrible sequences of CGI. The fight towards the end looks like Play-Doh and just crap. It's not good. It's so bad. And then there's other sequences like with the entire final battle bits. There's some really bad CGI that just takes you right out of the movie, which is, I hear that they were rushed. The CGI artists, I forget what you want to call them, but they were rushed, and it shows. It looks so bad. It's so hard to watch, honestly, in my opinion. Having rewatched it, I thought some of the CGI was terrible, which is sad also as well, because there's other moments towards the beginning of the movie that there are some really great CGI. But everything here is just not good. There is a lot of action sequences that take place in the dark, and you can't tell what's going on, and it's so terribly shot. And it just bugs me. And then excuse me. You know what fixes this beer? Nice cider. Anyways, guys, there's the portion where T'Challa is killed, and it feels like not even 15, 20 minutes later he's back, he's fine, which we knew was going to happen, and then it's just immediately into the final battle, and I don't love the last hour of this movie is my biggest problem with it, really. Chadwick is such a great leading man, and all of the characters in this movie are so well developed, so understood, and beautifully done, and I love all the characters. The story is so great. I didn't feel this was Best Picture worthy. I didn't feel that this was maybe the top 20 movies of the year, but I didn't feel, some people had it in their top 5, and I just, film is subjective, so I'm so happy if you found this movie to be the best of 2018 in your opinion. To me, it just wasn't. There was other superhero movies that came out that year that I felt were so much better than this, and this was a little overhyped. Again, not a bad movie by any means. It's mostly just the ending that I have issues with. I'm still going to give it an 8 out of 10. It is a really good movie, guys. I just personally found the things that we expect in a Marvel movie, they're action movies. They're supposed to have good special effects, and this just didn't. If they had not rushed the special effects in this movie, I might like it a lot more. And if they maybe had done a little bit more with the story in regards to T'Challa being killed and then coming back 10 seconds later, I would have liked this movie a lot more, but slightly overrated. So Black Panther for me is going to get an 8 out of 10, like I said. Really good movie. Slightly overrated. And then next up, poster I have up here, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, the sequel to Black Panther. I was in Chicago this weekend, as I said. I have a customer at the bar that I work at. He has family in Chicago, and his family wanted him over for his birthday. And he's 79 years old, 79-year-old man. He doesn't like driving much, and he was going to take a plane. It was going to cost a little too much for his liking. So I offered to take him down to Chicago. And, I was like, we can split gas. It'll be nice and cheap for us. I can go have fun in Chicago for a couple days. I absolutely love Chicago. And he can go spend time with his family. And so I took him. And one of the things I did in Chicago was I experienced my first ever 4DX film. I watched Black Panther Wakanda Forever in 4DX. If you do not know what 4DX is, people in my film group didn't know what it was. So that's interesting. Because a lot of them are from Chicago. So they have access to 4DX. But anyways, 4DX, the movie's in 3D. The chairs move. There's almost like a massager in it with certain scenes. You feel the action, like the bump, 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 bump. There's like wind that pops out every time a gunshot goes off. There's lights that'll go off as gunshots go off. There's water that is misted at you. Fog machines go off. It's supposed to be a more immersive experience. If you have seen Black Panther Wakanda Forever, you know this is quite a bit drama more than action. There is action sequences, but it feels 70% or 70% drama, 30% action sequences, maybe even 20% action sequence, 80% drama. There's a lot of drama in this movie. And so the 4DX experience for me wasn't the greatest. For the most part of the movie, it felt just kind of like it was there to be there at times. I think a movie like Top Gun Maverick, where you're in the cockpit of a plane, and that is like half the flippin' movie, that would have been really interesting to have that. It was an interesting experience for me. I'm not saying 4DX sucks or anything like that, but for this particular movie, it wasn't my favorite. But let's talk about the movie in particular. We're not going to spoil anything. I think I'll go see this movie again this week, come back next week, and we'll maybe talk spoilers. But what I will say about this movie from the start is I immediately want to say how good this movie is considering what happened. The fact that Chadwick Boseman died. The fact that Ryan Coogler had this script done at the time that Chadwick Boseman was alive. He just talked about this week how he sent the script to Chadwick and asked him to read the script before he sent it to Marvel. And then I believe 2 weeks later, he died. I'm speechless after hearing that. The idea that you write this and you have the idea that you're going to have this actor in this movie that you wrote, and then 2 weeks later find out he dies and you have to rewrite it. And from what has been said by Ryan Coogler, there wasn't a whole heck of a lot rewritten. There was more of just things added to it. They chose to honor Chadwick Boseman by having his character die in the movie, which I thought was done respectfully and wonderfully. Again, this isn't really spoilers. This is just the plot of the movie. T'Challa dies in this movie at the very beginning, and it's kind of just the after effects on the grieving process of that all and moving forward with it. And it just the fact this movie is so good after all of that is astonishing, because that is so terrible. And to only have your movie delayed by 6 months and be able to fix it and add to it like was done to make this good of a movie it blows my mind. I just cannot even fathom that. So it just, wow. Right there, right from the front, I'm going to say wow, that they were able to do it and they handle it with such respect. I just feel bad for the entire team, the actors, everyone that worked on the first Black Panther and now was going into this one. Just wow. And great job for doing the movie justice after that first one and what happened. Getting into the movie, though, again, the culture is once again really great in this movie. The entire Wakanda just feels like a family, and I absolutely love that. Again, just going with what happened in real life is absolutely great. That it kind of just spilled into the real world and into the movie. Absolutely great. CGI, I think, in certain sequences was a lot better. There are still scenes where it bugged me, but I feel like they got a lot more practical with this, and maybe that 6 months of time gave them more time to fix the CGI, because I think the CGI was just a little bit better in this one. This movie is way too long, guys. It is 2 hours and 40 minutes. The interesting thing is, so like I said, this movie was written and then had to be added on to because of Chadwick Boseman's death. The scenes I think that work best are having to do with that death of T'Challa. The scenes that seemed like they were already written, that feels like what is a little too much. And then there are also scenes in this movie that are setting up other things in the MCU. There are 2 characters that I'm not going to spoil are in this movie that have been in other movies, other TV shows and such like that. They don't need to be in this movie. They should be completely taken out of this movie. The movie would be 2.5 hours instead. And maybe a little bit closer and appropriate on time. It just seems like a lot. It's not as bad as like Iron Man 2 or Avengers Age of Ultron, where it just seems like they're setting up other things. But it seems like there's a lot of setup to other things. Whereas other movies and in other Marvel movies have set up other things, but doing it just slightly, introducing characters, not giving us all this stuff, just introducing them, saying, hey, we're here. They're side characters. We learn to love them, and they're essentially cameos almost in other MCU movies. And then they grow. This movie doesn't do that. They're like full plunge pushing and basically going, hey, this comes out in 2 months. Come see it then. And it bugged me. And it also, again, just added on to that length. So the movie is way too long. Pacing is not great. Like I said, there's really not that many action sequences really in this movie when you think about it. Action is very short. And there's so much drama mixed into this. And again, just some of these drama sequences are sequences setting up other Marvel things that just don't need to be there. So the pacing's off. The runtime is way too long. And it's just... It would make the movie so much better if some of these things were just taken out. The acting is really strong. Angela Bassett gives like an Oscar-worthy performance in this. There's a couple speeches she gives that are just so emotionally powerful, so fantastic. Letitia Wright. Let's kind of talk about her. Because all the other characters, I don't remember the actress plays Okaya, that girl, General Okaya, whatever her name is. And Lupita Nyong'o's character, Winston Duke, they're kind of more sidelined. Lupita Nyong'o doesn't show up in this movie for almost hour and a half, I would say, almost at least an hour in. She doesn't show up for a good chunk of this movie. And really the lead actresses in this are Angela Bassett's character and what's her name? Letitia Wright's character. Letitia Wright is really the lead in this movie. And she doesn't have the presence that Chadwick Boseman had, which is not her fault. She was cast as a side character, and she was a fantastic side character in that first movie. I think she shows up in Wakanda for Infinity War as well. Absolutely fantastic in Infinity War. She's a great side character. She's brought to the front, and she just doesn't have that charisma, that oomph that the movie needs. It just shows, and you feel it. She's front and center, and she just doesn't have it the way Chadwick Boseman did. Is that necessarily her fault? I don't think so. I really don't. But you just feel his presence being gone throughout the movie. And the movie does deal with grief, and it's kind of a depressing movie at times. There are those MCU moments of sadness and or of comedic bits and such like that. But it's a heavy movie. Namor is another interesting villain. He's not as good as Killmonger, but he is still a very strong villain. You do understand why he's doing what he's doing, and his motivation does make sense, and he is definitely still a strong villain. One of the stronger villains of the MCU. Not as good as Killmonger, though. Yeah, so really, honestly, I'm going to give this grade, the movie grade, the same as Black Panther. I'm going to give it 8 out of 10. It is a really strong movie, and they did fix some of the things that they had issues with. But you know what? I'm kind of going back on this as I'm talking about it. I'm going to go 7 out of 10 on this one. Just everybody did their best effort and did great. I just don't think it's quite as strong as Black Panther. Yeah, we're going to talk more about spoilers in this next week, I think. And my grade might change by then. I don't know. This movie is one that I've been thinking so much about it. And watching like every video on YouTube about it, I just want to talk to other people about this one. And it's got me really conflicting. And again, it's a good movie. This is, we've had a terrible year for Marvel movies, in my opinion. This is the best one of the year. Is it better than Spider-Man No Way Home? I don't personally feel so. I really don't. Not even close. But it's still a really good movie. And if you like the Marvel movies, if you have given up on the Marvel movies like I was starting to, check this movie out. It might bring back your hope for Marvel movies. I think Ant-Man and the Quantumania might be the next Marvel movie, which I saw the trailer for before this. I am not excited for that movie. That looks terrible. It looks terrible in my opinion. Let's hope my opinion changes, because I want Marvel movies to be good, guys. I love these movies so much. I really do. I want them all to be good, and I don't want to give up on them. So, Black Panther Wakanda Forever is a really good movie. Check it out. Come on, Marvel. Come on. Show us some good stuff. Next up, guys, we have a movie called Drinking Buddies. I watched this movie because it was filmed in Chicago, particularly in a bar that my buddy actually lives over in Chicago, the Empty Bottle. They specifically say the name of the bar in this movie. They're like, hey, we went to the Empty Bottle tonight. The Bottle, you ever been there? So yeah, that's really why I watched it. If it was filmed in Chicago, I just went to Chicago. I love Chicago, guys. So yeah, this is kind of a romantic dramedy, I guess you could say. There are two couples together, and romantic comedy. We have Jake Johnson's character, Olivia Munn's character. They work together at a brewery, and then they have their significant others. So there's this kind of like love triangle stuff going on in this movie, and it's an enjoyable romantic dramedy, I guess you could say. There's a lot of cliche things that a movie like this would normally do, and it doesn't do. It had me surprised, and I feel like I was guessing things, and I totally got things wrong. Oh, excuse me. The first half of this movie, I thought was a lot better than the second half of this movie. It started dragging on for me. The movie's only like an hour and 40 minutes. It started feeling like it was closer to 2 hours. So I think just a little bit maybe could have been chopped out. There's a lot of drama moments that a couple drama moments, I should say, that almost just don't feel like they need to be in the movie. They could have been cut out and just skipped to that part. But at the end of the day, I think what really drives this movie is just the chemistry. All four of these main actors that you see in this poster here have such great chemistry. You can tell there are scenes that are probably improv. They feel improv. They just, have that feeling of improv. And they're so just wonderfully done. And like I said, the chemistry is really what makes this movie really enjoyable. And it just did some things that I really liked. Some other things I didn't like. But at the end of the day, it wasn't overly cheesy and cliche. Excuse me. And that's really what I have to give thumbs up for on this movie, is the fact that it was unexpected. It did things that most movies like this would do, and it didn't do it. At the end of the day, nothing spectacular. But if you like a romantic dramedy, this is a good one to check out. And hey, it was filmed in Chicago. I've been to some of these spots, and I just like that. Yeah. So I'm going to give this one a 7 out of 10, guys. It's solid. Certain things that weren't needed, certain character choices that I didn't love. It just felt a little long by the end of it. But still, a really enjoyable movie, a good romantic dramedy. If you have not checked this one out, check it out. Last up of the movies I watched this week, guys. Where are we at on time here? Yeah, we're getting close. I'm doing pretty good, though. Is the Outlaw, Josey Wales. Movie for Film Club. It was Western Week, and someone picked this one. Film directed by Clint Eastwood. I had never seen it before, so this was a good one for me to watch with Film Club. And this is a really great Western. Eastwood really does know how to direct a movie. When he's got his heart and soul in it, and he's making good movies like this, he makes a good movie. When he's making crap movies, he makes, what was that 2:10 to Paris or whatever movie that was awful that I have not seen because I heard it was so awful. But the intensity in this, the Western feels of it are just so perfect. Clint Eastwood really does know how to give just a fantastic, powerful grimace and stare, and the way he talks is just menacing and perfect. He is so good in these kind of roles. He's just absolutely fantastic. The movie, we were talking about in the film group, it feels more like a TV show than it does a movie for some reason. I don't know if that's the cinematography or what of this movie, but it felt like a TV show at times. Kind of a negative, because it almost kind of started getting boring and overlong. But it's good. It's very good. I'm not going to say it's bad. It's very good, though. And it's such a fantastic Western. Josey Wales is such a really good, interesting character. There's some really great side characters. I think this movie does go on a little too long, though. It's like 2 hours and 15 minutes. I think it could be 2 hours long. Direction, though, is so great. The writing is very well done. Some really great side characters. And just a really great Western. If you like Westerns, this is one to check out. I feel like Westerns are something that have kind of escaped us in the last few years. And it sucks. Westerns are cool and great and exciting. And I hope they kind of made a comeback. This is one of them to check out. If you have not checked out The Outlaw, Josey Wales, this is another one I don't really want to talk too much about. I don't want to talk too much about the plot. Just kind of go in cold on this one and enjoy it, because it really is a great classic film directed by Clint Eastwood. I believe it was 74 or 75 or something like that. So a really good movie. Check it out if you have not. Next up, guys, I occasionally like to talk about books. I read about a book a month, and ever since September, with Dahmer coming out on Netflix, I have kind of gotten into a serial killer fascination, true crime fascination. I hope that this is the final bit of that. I want to make sure I have it in shot here. Do I have it in shot? Oh, it's a little behind. Okay. This is the book that I had been reading for the last month. It is called The Jeffrey Dahmer Story, An American Nightmare. And it kind of just goes through some of the things that, basically, similar to the series. The first half of this book really is what happens during the times of the killings. It focuses on what Jeffrey Dahmer was doing, where he was at, these people he was meeting. It talks a little bit more about his probation and his child molestation, and talks a little bit more about that, which was interesting to get some behind the scenes on that. And then the last half of this book is the aftermath. And what I really like specifically about this book is it really talked about the people were very angry at Jeffrey Dahmer after he was arrested for kind of how this book describes it. The city of Milwaukee, though, was more pissed off at the cops, at the law system in Milwaukee for being homophobic, for being racist. And they stopped being mad at Dahmer and were more mad at Milwaukee as a city as a whole. And I found that very interesting. Some also really interesting facts in this book as well. There was a specific story that I had no clue about that I found really interesting. The family of Konarak Smofer, I can't say his last name, Sersanafrone, there was a memorial, and people that had never even met them donated money. They had about I think it was $6,000 raised, and it was brought home that night, and someone robbed them of this money that was donated to them to help their child. Did not know that. I did not know that Jeffrey Dahmer would call some of his victims' families and say, "Your son is dead, I killed him," and would hang up the phone. That was something very interesting. And again, it goes into why I am interested in this. The minute Jeffrey Dahmer got caught, it seemed he hated himself for what he did almost. It was just these urges and things he could not stop. And I find that interesting that he called the victim's family to let them know that their person was dead. And he admitted to these crimes and then would hang up the phone. But he wanted the families to know that you can stop looking. They're gone. He never apologized necessarily, but it almost was an apology. I just find that very interesting. And there's just some very interesting facts I found in this book. This was a hard book to read at times, I will say that. But it really does do a good job of just laying out everything that kind of happened. And just a terrible situation all around. I was 3 months old when Jeffrey Dahmer died. So I was not necessarily alive around this time, but this was 30 years ago. And it's so interesting to read these things that just happened very recently in life. And again, if this is something you're interested in, check out this book. Again, it's called The Jeffrey Dahmer Story, An American Nightmare. It's an interesting read. I think I'm done with serial killers for a while. I'm going to try to get into the Christmas spirit or something. Because, this is, having nightmares, it's weird. Anyways, guys, very interesting book. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. There's some really interesting stuff. It goes around quite a bit. It tries to be a little more dramatic than it needs to be, but some really interesting facts in this book. And if this is the kind of stuff you like to read, check it out. Moving on to movies coming out this week then, guys. We're going to try to end this on a higher note than that. That's why I didn't put this at the very end like I did with the last time, I believe. Movies coming out this week, guys. We have Disenchanted. I remember seeing the first Enchanted in theaters. It's an enjoyable movie. I'll maybe watch that first one again before this one comes out. It's an enjoyable movie. I remember enjoying it. It's a little, it's not necessarily my cup of tea. It's a princess musical, but it was enjoyable. I am kind of excited for the second one, Disenchanted. I'm glad they've got really pretty much all of the original cast coming back. So that'll be good. I'm pretty excited for this one, actually. I'll give it I'll give it a 7 out of 10. It's going to straight Disney Plus, which concerns me. But is it Rob Marshall, I think, that's directed this one? So that's a good sign. So I'm kind of excited for this one. In theaters this week, we have The Menu, which I am very excited about. I love Ralph Fiennes, Anna Taylor-Joy, Nicholas Hoult. I love all three of those actors. This just looks like a very interesting thriller, psychological kind of thriller. and I'm very excited to see this one, guys. This is like a 9 out of 10 for me. There's some reviews that are out, I believe, that aren't the greatest for it, but I'm very excited. It's going to be in theaters. Guys, it's almost Thanksgiving week, so I'll have time to go see it. So I'm very excited about that. We have the movie called She Said. This is based on the true story of women coming out about Harvey Weinstein, I believe. What was Bombshell about? I forget what Bombshell was about. That was a movie that I watched one time. It had really great acting, great story, blah, 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 blah. This is kind of going to be another one of those movies. Similar to Bombshell. Bombshell is a movie I have not watched since, and I don't want to watch it. It's just such an icky subject matter. I don't know that I want to watch it again. I feel like this is going to be one of those movies. I'm going to watch it once. I'm going to enjoy it. Or not enjoy it, but think it's going to be a good movie and never watch it again. So I think that's going to be similar to this. I'm not super excited to watch this because of its subject matter, but it will be interesting to see. I'll give it like a 6 out of 10. Bones and All. I have heard not very good things about this movie. The trailers look weird. I think Timothy Chalamet is a good actor. I'm not over the moon about him. Mark Rylance is in this, though. He's a great actor. It's a love story of some kind. I mean, that's a heart shape of the poster. I don't know. I'll maybe see it. It's in theaters this week in my local theater. That's why I have it on here, because I will maybe get a chance to see it. I don't know, 5 out of 10. I'm not very excited for this one. It looks overly long and overly boring. And then Strange World is also coming within the next week, I believe, before I see you guys again. I saw the trailer for this for the first time when I went and saw Black Panther Wakanda Forever in Chicago. This looks like an interesting, really fun kind of kids movie. Jake Gyllenhaal's in the voice cast, which is interesting. Has he ever done a voice work for a movie? I don't know. I'm kind of excited for this one, actually. I'm going to give this one like a 7 out of 10. It looks like a really interesting trailer and a really interesting movie, so I'm kind of excited for this one. And that's it, guys. I'll probably be watching Disenchanted on Disney Plus this week. There's that farewell concert that's live, I believe, on Disney Plus this week. I might be watching that on Sunday. I'm going to try to make it to the theater, see a couple movies if I can. And until then, guys, I hope you guys have a great week. I hope you've enjoyed your alcoholic beverage. I hope you've enjoyed talking about movies. I hope you're not sick the way I was, because dang, was it terrible. Cheers to that, guys. Cheers to your health, being alive and healthy. And if you're in a warm area, cheers to you, because you suck. God, I wish I was. I'm actually next month, guys, I'm officially going to announce this. I have planned a trip to South Carolina. I'm going to look at apartments, hopefully find a job. I'm getting the hell out of Wisconsin. I hate the cold. I am moving, finally. I think it's going to happen. Cross your fingers. I've said this for 10 years now. But cheers to that, guys. And until next week, guys, these days have been kind of all over the place when I've been posting because I'm busy. Let's see. Next Thursday is Thanksgiving. I don't think I work Wednesday during the day, though, so I might actually have a video up by Wednesday. We'll see what happens, though. But anyway, guys, until then, I hope you guys have yourself a great week. Have yourself a great day. Have yourself a few beverages. Enjoy life. Laugh. Be happy. And all that fun jazz. And we will see you next time.